The dehumanizing treatment of migrants across the globe is one of the greatest scandals of our time. Here in the United States, every time a new president is elected, a new court ruling is made, or a new local leader becomes vocal, thousands of undocumented folks come face to face with their own fragile and vulnerable realities. I have seen it as a native of the southern border, and now in my ministry at Dominican University in Chicago, I witness the difficulties of navigating systems in which young adults take on the usual added pressures of tuition and heavy course loads while existing under the precarious Band-Aid solution of DACA. In today's reading from Deuteronomy, Moses exhorts the Israelites to follow God's commandments. His reasoning, though, is not simply just because. Quite the opposite. He says, quote, "For what great nation is there that has God so close to it as the Lord our God is to us whenever we call upon him?" The commandments are not to be obeyed because they are given by an arbitrary, strict God, but because we are participating with God. We are in relationship with a God who is close to us and commands justice. The responsorial psalm reminds us of this when it says, quote, "The one who does justice will live in the presence of the Lord." Jesus himself says of himself, "Do not think that I have come to abolish law or the prophets. I have not come to abolish them, but to fulfill them." In today's gospel, then, he is not inviting the Jewish people to reject all they have ever known, for Jesus himself was, of course, a Jew, but urging them to understand the passive acceptance of tradition risks defiling themselves. God does not want passivity of us, but rather desires active relationship with us so we can participate in God's justice. Today's readings invite us to think about how we participate in structures which have, for so long, been broken. From a Catholic or Christian perspective, an immigration system that dehumanizes young people, shatters their sense of self, and causes them to question their own sense of belonging is broken. Its passive acceptance defiles us all. The scriptures invite us to rethink traditions, laws, and rules not based on nationalism or selfishness, but on how we might better participate in structures that carry out God's will. Ultimately, we must remember that elsewhere in the Gospels, when asked what the greatest commandment is, or better said, how we might fully participate in God's will, Jesus is said to have answered, quote, "Love your God with all your heart, mind, and soul, and love your neighbor as yourself." So let us love our neighbor. Let us take their realities, their distress, to be our own. For that is God's justice.